I'm Sam.
And I'm Andrew.
And we're Envy Board Gaming, and we are taking a look at Biome, which is published by Lioness Games and designed by Leonie Grunler. So Andrew is going to show us how to play, and then we'll be back.
Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've set up a game of Biome here. Now, Biome is played over 3 years, where you will be going through different seasons, doing different things, and completing a lot of actions in order to score victory points. The game is going to end in one of 3 ways. You are either going to have a player that scores 120 points, which will trigger the end of the game. Someone will completely fill their biome here, and that will trigger the end of the game. Or once you have finished summer at the end of the 3rd year, that will also trigger the end of the game. What you're going to be doing is you are going to be drawing cards, collecting resources, and managing those resources, and kind of building out your biome. You have 3 different biomes here. You have a marsh, you have a prairie, and you have a jungle, each of which have 6 spaces. It's a little cut off just so I can fit it all on the screen, but there are 6 spaces in each. At the beginning of the game, a player is going to get a combination of bird and tree matching depending on a number that you're going to receive, but there's a number of starting cards here. You will get a matching set to place on your board to get started. Now, throughout this, there is a standard and an advanced version. I'm just going to focus on the standard version, but I'll tell you a little bit about the advanced because the advanced is really not that advanced in my opinion. And if you want to play with it, you can. If you don't, you can kind of give and take whatever you think, right? So throughout this game, what you're going to be doing is building up that biome, trying to achieve some achievements that are on the board. There are some basic achievements as well as some advanced achievements that you're going to be going for. And you are going to be having little bunnies and chicks that are born, and there's going to be some predators and there's going to be some feeding of the animals as well. And you're going to be kind of going through all that, trying to score the most points. Whoever has the most points at the end wins. So the first section of a turn, I'm just going to run through a quick year, I guess, for the game. And what's great is that each season, so each year is broken into 4 seasons, and each season is broken into these essentially 3 different little phases. The first phase is composed of 4 steps that all players are going to be doing simultaneously. Now, in the very first turn, you're going to start with 3 cards in your hand, so you really don't have to worry about the first step, which is reduce cards down to your hand size. Everybody has a hand size of 8, their hand limit. And then simultaneously, everybody will be able to draw 2 cards. They will also collect 2 resources. Now, you begin the game with 1 of each. You have fish, mice, plants, berries, sun, and insects. You don't collect the chicks or the bunnies. Okay. Once you decided to collect those 2, and I'll show you what these cards look like, you're going to be getting them because you're going to be playing these into your biome. The cost is going to be the symbols here on the left-hand side. That's what they're going to need. Plants are always going to need sunlight for food, and then the different animals based on what you have, like this bunny's going to want 2 leaves and a berry, but this vulture wants 2 mice, right? So you're going to be collecting those resources on your turn. So let's say in this case, I want a leaf and I want a rat. Those are my 2 resources. Okay. Then after I have drawn my cards, collected my resources, I can play 1 card from my hand. So let's say I want to play this here striped rabbit. He is 2 leaves and a berry. I'll pay those. And I'll put them in my biome. I'll just stick him here. How's that? Okay. And so then I play a card and I'll wait for everybody else. All those steps are done simultaneously. Once you do that, then everybody will go into the seasonal events, and that's where this is going to come into play. Now, for a standard game, you will not do anything for fall or winter. You will just skip over and go straight to the next phase. However, if you play the advanced, there are 2 things that happen. Fall is a migration phase where you are going to select a card from your biome and you are going to pass it to the person on the left. You have to pick a card that fits into the correct biome because each of them have their requirements. Like this marsh marigold has to be in the marsh. So if I had it on my board and I wanted to pass that along, I would have to make sure my opponent had a space open in that particular area. Some have multiple spaces that they can go in. For example, this vulture can go in the marsh, or the prairie. So I have to abide by what they have available in their space, but that's how fall works. You're essentially picking up a card and giving it to a player and filling in their grid, and everybody passes it to the left, right? That's it. If there's a cube on them, they come off, and I'll explain that in a little bit. In winter, the only thing that's different is that instead of collecting 2 resources during that first step, you'll only collect 1, right? That's it. So I don't really know if you want to say those are advanced rules, but I guess it just adds more to the game if you want to do that. Where it really gets interesting is going to be with the spring and summer. Now, spring is where you are going to be doing your nesting. And that is where you're going to look for your bunnies and your birds that are going to be adjacent to nest-bearing plants, or in the bunny's sake, plants in general. So here I have a scarlet macaw that's adjacent to our soursop tree. And as you can see, on the soursop tree, there are 2 nest icons here, meaning that this tree can hold up to 2 nests. So this macaw can have its nest here, and I will see that on this card, the macaw can have 4 chicks. So I will take the 4 chicks and I will place them in the nest, right? Now, a rabbit doesn't lay nests in a tree, right? So they don't necessarily have to have a plant-bearing tree in order to have their babies. They just need to be adjacent to any plant. It does not matter. So, for example, I could choose this liana plant. Let's say I had played this one here, right? Let's say I had that one there. I would then be able to have the rabbits lay their bunnies to any plant. So even though this doesn't have any nest icons on the side, I can still, since it's a bunny, still have a nest with my bunnies, and each rabbit has 6. So 5, 6. Oh, also one thing I did not mention, because the card I happened to pick was 0, but when you play that card during that simultaneous section, you will score points based on the top right, the number in the top right corner of victory points. So mine was 0, but if I had played, let's say, or I had played the bunny actually, so I would have gotten 2 points. Okay, so that's how that would have been. Okay, but during the spring, you're going to have your nesting, and that's what this would look like. Okay, during the summer, what would happen? So you would go through all these steps. So we did our spring event. Then we would activate one at a time. We would activate a card. Okay, so I did my normal simultaneous. We did our seasonal event, which let's just say we were in spring, and then we have our one or activate a card, and we'll do this one at a time. So starting with the first player that has this fox, they're going to activate one of their cards. What you're going to do is you're going to take a cube and you'll place it on that card to activate it. Each card in your biome can ever only be activated once for the entire game. So once you activate it, you've used it, and that's it. Okay, so I might want to activate this plant down here, liana, where I get 4 plant leaves, and I get to draw 3 cards, and all other players may get a leaf if they want to. Okay, and that's how I'm going to activate, and then they'll take their turns. This is where I was talking about that migration in fall, where if I were to pick a card that already has a cube on it and give it to an opposing player, then that cube would come off and they would be able to use that plant in their biome in a future turn. Okay, so that's why I said I wanted to talk about that. So really, every season, you're going to do these 3 steps. You're going to do all the simultaneous drawing the cards, collecting the resources, playing a card, making sure you get your points. Then you'll do the seasonal effect. And so I kind of jumped ahead and did spring just to show you how that works. And then everybody will activate a card. Okay, and you'll play that out. And then after you're done, you go to the next season, you start back over. Everybody will check to make sure they have no more than 8 cards. There is also an exchange anytime here where you can discard 2 of the same resource. That includes the resources of food and sunlight and whatnot, or cards, right? And you can choose one of any other. So there's always an exchange that you can do. And so you'll do that. Again, you'll draw 2 cards, collect 2 more resources, play a card, and then let's go over really quickly what summer looks like. So in summer, there are going to be predators throughout the game. Let me see if I can find you a couple predators real quick. And the way that this is going to work is whichever player has the lowest number of points is going to go first when it comes to predators. And they're all going to be marked with these little, it says literally in red on the card, predator. Okay. And so let's say I had these here. I have this prairie rattlesnake and a red shouldered hawk. So if I have these in my biome, I would pick an opponent and I would choose, let's say I had this rattlesnake here. I would choose they have to be the same habitat. So I'd have to pick an opponent who has a prairie habitat that I would want to attack, because my predator is in the prairie. I can only attack the prairie. Okay. And if they have babies in there, then I can attack them. And let's say they do have babies. I then will have to roll a dice. Okay. And I have to roll a dice based on the number of plants that they have in their habitat, in that habitat. Okay. So if they have 2 plants in that habitat, I have to roll a 3 or higher in order to be a successful hunt for my predator. So if I roll a 1, I do not succeed. And instead, what happens if I fail is that I get to draw 3 cards. I don't take any of the I don't eat any of the babies. I just get 3 cards for failing. Now let's say I did roll a 3 and I did succeed. What I would do is then I would get rid of 2 of their babies, whether it be chicks or rabbits, it doesn't matter. I would discard those 2. They were eaten, and I would get 2 points for each of them. So I would get 4 points for eating those babies. Okay. So that is how that predator is going to work. And everybody's going to have a turn to do that, and you will go around resolving those predators. Okay? Once everybody has done that, you will then go into feeding. Now, feeding is when you are going to have to feed the babies that you have based on the resources you spent for the parent animal. So for the rabbits, for example, here, I'd have to spend leaves or berries in order to feed my babies. I only have 4 leaves, so I can only feed 4 of the rabbits. Okay? And I would get 2 points for each baby that I feed on the track. Now, so let's say I fed my 4 rabbits, and let's say I fed 1 chick. Okay? The ones that are left over are not being fed. However, there are 2 cards in the entire game. So in this huge deck of like 180 cards, there are 2 cards, and they're these vultures. Okay? If a player has these vultures, at the end of the summer, they're going to choose one of their opponents, and for each chick and rabbit in a specific area, so like this yellow-headed vulture is only going to be thinking about the jungle, whereas this one, this is a greater yellow-headed vulture, this is a lesser. Lesser is going to be focusing on the marsh and the prairie. Okay, and for each chick and bunny that opponent did not feed, they get to eat it. So essentially, they're eating the carcasses of these starved babies. Really morbid, right? But there's only 2 of these in the whole game. So if these come up, that's when they're going to activate, is after the feeding. All of them that are not fed, the vultures are going to be able to salvage or scavenge some extra points. Okay? And so you're going to keep going in this motion of drawing cards, collecting resources, playing, building out your biome, and you'll keep doing this year after year, going through the different seasons. Okay? As you go out, if you achieve these objectives, you're going to have ones like you want 4 flowers, 1 in each of the different habitats. So one of the habitats will obviously have 2 because you only have 3. First one to achieve that will get 10 victory points. Here, you are looking for diverse habitats. So you want 6 out of the 7 possible options to be in that habitat. So there are 3 different types of plants with the flower icon, tree, and the little fern icon. And then there are 4 different kinds of animals. Mammals, birds, reptiles, and then miscellaneous. You need all different symbols. Okay, so 6 of those 7 in that habitat, and you'll be able to score for that card. Same thing here. You're looking for rows. So this one's 1 diverse row, again, 6 of the 7. And then here you're looking at your entire biome. So you're looking for 5 unique plants and 5 unique animals. Okay, if you manage to do that, then you score those victory points. All right, and you're going to keep going through this over and over. As you are moving up your point tracker here, you are going to have bonuses. You are going to be able to draw additional cards. You will also be able to play additional cards with a discount, or you'll be able to earn some additional sun. Okay, and it goes all the way around until somebody reaches the finish line, fills their entire biome, or you reach the end of summer on year 3, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Resources at the end of the game do not provide you with any additional points. You're mainly just be looking at the animals that you play in the top right hand corner. They give you points. Also, as you're activating those abilities, they give you points. And with the nesting and predator feeding, all that stuff, they're also going to give you points there, and with the achievements. Okay, and that's pretty much how you play Biome. Every single card in this deck is different. It is also all AI artwork, so keep that in mind as well. So let's go ahead and go back up top and tell you what we think.
All right, we are back. So once again, we have another animal game.
Yes.
Love it.
This one is, what would happen if Wingspan and Earth had a baby? Yeah. It's essentially how I would describe this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you like Earth, if you like Wingspan, maybe you'll like Biome. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a Kickstarter. This is the deluxe version, which, let's talk about the production, because the big pull in here is those really cool bird nests. Like, yeah. They're legit, like, bird nests. Can get a little messy. They kind of crumble a little bit on certain, but it's not a big deal.
But they're bird nests.
So. Right. They put a lot of thought into how they did, like, the insert. It was, like, very, like, no plastic. It's a certain kind of material. I can't remember what they called it, but they try to be very environmentally conscious when they put this game together. Mm-hmm. I liked all the little wooden tokens. Like, you have a bunch of little bunnies and chicks and the fruits and the bugs and, you know, the leaves and all that stuff. Like, production, they did really, really well, especially when it came to components.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. The art is AI generated. So this was the first game that I think I got, and they were very open, like, hey, this is AI art. And I think the art is fine. It's not like the best art, but it's not horrible.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I'm okay with it. So keeping that in mind, that was kind of the thing that pulled us in, is this was like, hey, we both like Wingspan. We both like Earth. If they had a baby, would it be the best of both worlds?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I think it was a relatively cheap Kickstarter when we backed it, kind of thing. So yeah, what did you think about production?
I mean, I thought production was great. I think the animals still looked cool, even though it wasn't like official kind of art. I mean, it was like with AI. I also did love the bird nests. I love that you could put the little chicks in the bird nest and the little bunnies in the bird nest, and how they incorporated that into the game. And I felt like that made it like more fun, you know? But yeah, I think I agree with everything you said. Yeah.
Cool. Preparation. So setup, tear down. Most of it's just a bunch of cards, right? You get a bunch
fast.
of You get your starting tree and your starting animal, and then you just are going to be getting a bunch of cards that you're going to be playing into this grid. Teach isn't too bad. Like the literally, what's kind of nice is like, okay, we go through this phase, this phase, this phase, and each phase is relatively simple. Like, and some of them are simultaneous, so it can be very okay. Get your resources, get your cards, play your card, whatever. And you just kind of keep going along, and it's can be a relatively quick and easy playthrough. I think, and so that's
because this is 60 to 90 minutes.
Yeah, and I feel like that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, it is.
And we played this at 1, 2, and 3. I don't think we played this at 4, though. So we played everything but 4. It does have the weather expansion. It's just a luck thing of like, oh, something bad happens. Yeah. Whenever that happens, where it's like, and I get like it's a spinner. That's the one thing I'm kind of like, what? But I guess I'm talking about the teach. I'll get to gameplay in a second. But the teach is pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
Like you're just you're playing cards, and kind of like you would for Wingspan. You got to pay the what they eat kind of thing, and put them out into the correct biomes that they're required to go to. And that's where I think you're going to get that Wingspan like feel, because you have your wetlands, and you have your forests, and you have your grassy area and whatnot. And so you're going to be, and they each have their own special abilities and whatnot that you're going to be able to trigger throughout the game. So especially if you have those knowledge of those games, it can be pretty easy to understand, I think.
Right.
So yeah, I don't have any problem with setup or teardown or the teach for this one. I think they're pretty relatively straightforward. There weren't any really rules that I can think of that were necessarily difficult to understand. I felt it was pretty straightforward there.
Well, and I liked that they had on the board the steps to take, because then you never were like, oh, like, what do I do next kind of thing. So I did like that. It told you what season you were in and what you did. And so that was helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, you have the achievements that you're going after. Feels very much like Earth, right? When you have those, like Earth, you have the different animals and they want you to achieve certain things. Same thing in this game for those achievements, right? So getting into gameplay, I feel like it felt very thematic, putting these animals into their correct biomes and whatnot. You have that hand limit. You can't have more than 8 cards, I think it is, if I remember right. But you can also always exchange cards for extra resources and whatnot. It's very much you can get a lot of cards and a lot of stuff and whatnot. The thing that's interesting here is each animal you can only ever trigger once, right? So you have the little cubes, and you can do one ability, and they're going to happen. Like, I mean, they're only going to trigger one time kind of thing.
So you do have to really think about that, because you're like, okay, do I want to do this now, or do I want to save it during a different time? Like, is it kind of maybe like an end game one that would be better? Yeah.
Right. And for some of the seasons, like, it's nothing really happens. There is, so you can play a couple different ways. You can play where you ignore a few seasons, like the fall and winter season, you ignore, which in fall is they migrate, right? So you send a card from your area to your neighbors, which I'm kind of like, meh, I think I could do without that. I didn't really care about the whole, oh, I'm building out my biome and now I'm just forced to give you a card. And you're always going to pick probably like your starter card or whatever. Because like, oh, this is crap. I don't want this.
Card,
right? So,
which kind of sucks, because then it feels like one of your
spots are just wasted.
Yeah. So then you have limited space.
So when it comes to the seasons, like that one's kind of like I could do without that. Winter is, you just get one less resource. Makes sense, right? It's winter. Food's harder to find kind of thing.
I like spring, because then you make the babies.
Right. And so then you have the babies, but only, each plant or tree can only have so many nests. And so I really like you're generating these babies,
but you also have to feed them.
You also have to feed them, and there's predators in this one. So unlike those other games that we've talked about, like there's going to be a chance for these babies to get eaten. But you can also try to mitigate based on the plants that you put in that biome. So the more greenery and plants that they can hide in, right, the easier they're able, the higher that the predator has to roll to be able to attack, right? And I think what's cool is like, even if you do lose half your babies to a predator or whatever, it's not that detrimental to the game. I don't think it creates like that big of a score difference. It's just some people might go towards predators, some people might go towards other. If you get the vultures that eat unfed babies, that's a cool thing. But there's not a ton of them. There's only a couple in the game. But it doesn't feel punishing if your babies get eaten, right? I know you always get a little depressed when I eat them, but I mean, if anything, I'm keeping the population from becoming overgrown.
And not if I don't have enough food to feed them. Then I'm just like, okay, whatever.
Right? Yeah. Like, in some cases, you're like, I don't have enough food. Go ahead, eat them. Like they're gonna go away and die anyway of starvation.
What I do like is you're not punished for that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're not getting points, obviously, if you can't feed them, but it's like not. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. But it is really cool. I like that whole little predator things. I always try to have like one. But like, hey, if you want to have a bunch of plants in there, then they have to roll a higher number because it's based on how many plants you have in that biome.
Now, so it kind of too. So I like that I don't know, it's got this different feel than like Wingspan and Earth because of like the board with you moving around the board.
Yeah.
And that gives you kind of like, you're going to hate this, but like Candyland feel.
It does. It feels very dated.
Yeah,
I thought that.
Yeah. So I mean, I like it because you're moving around the board and like you land on stuff or you cross stuff and you get different things.
Yeah.
So that's cool too. Is like, oh yeah, I passed this. I get an extra card or something.
So. Yeah. So because it's essentially a race to 120 points. So you're gonna make you're gonna get a ton of points.
Yeah.
And you might be able to play an extra card, and it might be at a discount, or you get extra sun, or you get extra cards, or whatever. And so you get, but if that part of the game kind of feels outdated, like kind of like okay. Yeah. Like this was just kind of thrown on there kind of thing. But it is a little bit of a race, and it's usually a relatively close race. But I do like that the game goes pretty quickly because literally half of the round is simultaneous. All right, you got your stuff, like get your cards, get your food, play your card. Okay, you're ready to go. You know, you're gonna be activating all that stuff. So that's really fun and easy. I enjoy that. But yeah, I think overall it feels thematic. There's not a lot of downtime because it's very streamlined. Yeah. It feels very streamlined.
And you don't have like any time really in between.
Yeah. There's definitely going to be luck, right? If you're a predator and you don't roll high enough, you don't get to eat the babies, right? If you don't get the cards that you're looking for, right? But I think there's enough mitigation in the game that you should be fine. It doesn't bother me. I don't know what it is about these kinds of games, but it doesn't bother me when I can just like, I'm going to get a plethora of cards. I'll eventually find a card that works, right? Or I can pivot.
You do have a lot. I mean, you have a lot to choose from.
Yeah.
And like, what way do I want to go?
Right. And the cards, some of the cards, the abilities are on them. You can score a lot of points depending on what you're going for, right? And so there's tons of ways to score points in the game, which is really good. I like having the achievements that are out there that you're going to be going for. And you can have some basic ones and some advanced ones, right? Which are really nice. So overall, I do enjoy the gameplay of this. Does it, I mean, I can see the elements of Earth and Wingspan that it probably pulled some inspiration from. Is it better than either of those? I think no.
Yeah, no.
I don't think it's better than either of them. It's a nice game. It has some differences. And I think like it's a fine game. I think it's fine. I don't think it's like mind shattering. There's some things that I think that they could definitely improve on. That like I'm never gonna play with the weather expansion with the spinner just to see what kind of bad thing happens to me. That's stupid. Like, hey, how do we make this game longer and more drawn out by just making random bad stuff happen to us? No, that's dumb.
It's like Twister.
Right. It's super dumb. So I always hate when those kinds of things come into the game, but that is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't like it as like a design choice, but overall, it's a pretty good game.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. So we're on return on investment.
Yeah, or if you had anything else, I didn't want to keep rambling.
No,
I talked enough.
No, I think yeah, I definitely felt, that wingspan Earth feel, but like you said, it has its unique qualities too.
Yeah.
So it is different.
It adds a little twist.
Yeah, those. Exactly. So, but yeah, I think this was a Kickstarter, you said, but I don't know if I necessarily remember this prior to playing. Like, I'm sure you've talked about it, but I don't remember it specifically.
It was advertised really well. Like whoever they had behind marketing, I feel like I saw this game everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say, so we jump into final scoring. I think this one, like I was kind of skeptical about when you first brought it out, because I was like it, because you said like, oh, it's got this like Earth kind of wingspan feel, and those are very like high. I feel for us, we have, we really love those games. So I wasn't really sure, like initially, but after we played it, so we played it as 2-player, and then we played it as 3-player. And I think the more I played it, I was like, oh, I like this, so my final score, I think what I'm going to give it is I'm going to give it a 7.8, almost an 8, just not quite. But yeah, but I still really liked it.
Yeah, this is definitely one I'll still come back to, and I think it does grow on me after each play. I'm really close to where you are, actually. I'm at a 7.7.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed it. It's one that I'll still want to pull out, especially when I feel like devouring some baby bunnies. Sometimes that's the case.
And bullying.
And and you just score a ton of points. Like it feels good when I'm like, I scored 130 points. Like it's just really, it's satisfying.
It is high scoring.
Right. And so I wish there were more like achievement cards and stuff like that. And but yeah, it's one that I'll, as of right now, I'll keep coming back to and I enjoy. So yeah, so that's going to be our thoughts on Biome, the baby of Earth and Wingspan. Not really, but in a sense, maybe spiritually. So something I think maybe worth checking out if it's something you can come across and pick up. If you're into those kinds of games, this might be something that adds a little twist that might be right up your alley, especially if you like those kinds of nature games. And it's got a really good production and presence on the table with those bird nests and everything. It looks really beautiful. So I would definitely recommend checking this one out if you get a chance. And we will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.
See ya.